everyone to Partner Central Florida and the SET program, where we set our goals, evaluate our plan, and take action. Today we have Ms. Mahalia Roberts with us discussing resumes, and she is a certified career advisor. How are you today?
Excellent. Thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure and an honor.
So today we're going to be discussing the 5 do's and 5 don'ts of resume writing. So a lot of people are unaware of formatting and how they properly.
Absolutely. A lot of people don't know that there are different types of formats that you can have when it comes to resume writing. So a lot of us are familiar with the reverse chronological, which is the most popular, and I'm a fan of that one. But you also have the functional and a skills-based resume. So some of those things are items you can take into account. A lot of people would use a functional resume maybe when they're changing industries. And so you're able to categorize your experience, i.e. if it's management or customer service or industrial. And so it will give you the ability to kind of outline those particular experiences. However, the go-to is always the reverse chronological. It allows for you to identify the job, your position, and then what you have done at that particular place, and it lets the employer know where you are right now with those dates. And speaking of dates, you definitely don't want to be too vague on the dates. Some people feel as though they just want to put the year and not the month because they don't want to show that employment gap, but it's better to just be honest, identify that specific work experience, that time frame, and then it doesn't look like you're hiding anything from the employer. So figure out what format you like. I'm a fan of the chronological format.
Wonderful. So to begin, I guess your heading has to be right. How would you say a proper heading would look for a resume?
Absolutely. So your heading is almost like the smile on your face when you walk up and meet someone, right? So when you're sending in your information, employers don't see you. They see your resume. So you want to make sure your resume, that heading is bold, your name is bold. Your name should be a little bit larger than the additional information. You want to make sure that the information is correct, okay? Do not have outdated and old information. If you have a new email address, if you have a new phone number, if you have a new mailing address, you definitely want to make sure that information is up to date. A lot of people are getting away from putting their actual mailing address on their resumes. I tell individuals you want to be a little bit cautious of putting that mailing address, only because when you're first applying for positions, you don't know who's getting your resume. And so it's totally okay for you to put your city, state, and zip, so employers know where you are, because if they want to invest in you relocating, they need to know that information up front. But you don't necessarily have to put all of your direct mailing address. But when you're further along in the application process, you can give them that information then. And then the last point I would say about the heading is your email, okay? I have come across some very interesting emails, okay? And while you do get points for creativity, you may lose points when it comes to professionalism. So you want to make sure your email is very simple, maybe your first name, last name at Gmail or Yahoo or iCloud, something like that. You may want to stay away from the year of your birth. A lot of people will put the year that they were born, and it automatically lets the employer know how old you are. If you want that, that's fine, because at some point you're gonna have to let them know. But just try your first name, your last name, maybe a number, and then at one of those Gmail or Yahoo or something like that. So,
and emails are free, so you can have a professional email and a personal email and keep the two totally separate. So that's great information.
Absolutely.
Now, templates. There are many forms of resumes out there on Google or some type of resume software. But what would you say a proper professional template would look like?
Okay, so this has a lot to do with the industry that you're working in. Templates are great, like you said. Google has some templates, Microsoft Word, just different applications have templates. One of the things that you want to be careful about when it comes to templates is the restrictiveness of it, because a lot of times they have different boxes that you have to put information into. So I tell individuals, look at a template, see what you like, and then you may want to recreate that in a Word document where you don't have so many different boxes. When it comes to the boxes, application tracking systems don't like them. So when you're applying online, a lot of times they get confused when they're trying to read that information. So you want to be very careful, but definitely utilize a template if you need to do so. And then go online, do some research. How do other resumes in your particular field look? Okay, you can take ideas, but you do not want to plagiarize. You are not taking someone else's information, you're just using it to get ideas. So templates are definitely a do, a don't plagiarize, and try to stay away from some of those text boxes when it comes to those templates.
That's wonderful information. Now, getting to the meat and potatoes of that resume, your profile statement versus objective. How would you say that should be written?
Right, so we really don't know where objective came from because really your resume is your body of work, your skills, and not necessarily what you want to get from the company. Really your objective is to get the job, right?
Absolutely.
And at the bottom, at the end of the day, that's really what it is. So you want to focus a little bit more on your profile summary or your professional summary. This will allow for you to give some information. It's almost like a mini cover letter, and you can put in some of that experiences. Have you managed a budget with $50,000, $100,000, $1 million? You could put that information in there. What are some of the skill sets you have? You want to stay a little bit away from those key buzzwords, detail-oriented, hard worker. Explain what that means. If you're a welder, are you really cognizant of angles when you are welding? That lets an employer know that you're detail oriented, okay? So while if you're just starting out and you're using some of that vocabulary, that's absolutely fine. But as you progress in your career, you want to use more of statements that identify what detail oriented means in your industry, okay?
Excellent. So for the last do and don't, what would you say the length of your resume should be, and then a little editing information as well?
Okay, that's great. So there's a little controversy when it comes to length.
Okay.
If you are more of an entry-level individual, one page is more than enough real estate, okay? That just means that you're not putting in a lot of fluff. Okay, you have to know yourself and know your skill set enough to identify what your strengths are from a particular organization. So when you work at a job, you do a lot of things. A lot of us do. We multitask all the time. But what you're doing is you're looking at the job description and you're saying, what from my current position aligns with what they need for this particular job? Because job descriptions are always minimal, right? It's kind of like a scope of what you do and not exactly the day-to-day things.
Right.
So with that being said, you just want to focus on putting in key information.
Got it.
Okay.
Got it.
Now, if you're a little bit more experienced, you will have your resume will be a little bit longer. I still tell people you don't want to go past 2 pages. Now we have something called LinkedIn, your professional profile. If you have information that you want to expound upon, take advantage of like a LinkedIn profile.
Right.
That will allow for you to get a little bit more details in there as it relates to what you've done in the past, and it gives the employer or the recruiter the opportunity to say, yes, I want to know more. That one page, they're skimming. They're finding keywords, they're finding titles, project manager, were you a welder, were you an electrician, are you an account executive? They're skimming through. If they're looking at numbers and things of that nature, that's why you want to be as detailed as possible, but you don't want like a 3-4 page resume. Recruiters have to look at a lot of resumes.
Absolutely.
And they're not going to take their time by looking through 3 or 4 pages, okay?
Right.
Even if they're recruiting an executive, a lot of times they just need to know exactly your skill set, and then they'll pull back from there. And the last thing when it comes to editing, please, 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 my friends, everyone here, please make sure you proofread. You should not be submitting resumes with misspelled words, grammar mistakes. Just have another set of eyes on that resume, whether it's a friend, a family member, a career professional. And sometimes you may want to pay for that service. If your resume is, or if your position is one that you know is very competitive and you want to make sure you're at the top of the stack, it may be a small investment for you to utilize a service to make sure that that resume is up to par. But they have a lot of free resources as well.
Absolutely.
Right. And it speaks to your professionalism, right?
Yes.
Not to say we aren't human. You may have, a comma out of place, or you may have transposed some letters. That's not as much of an issue as making sure that information flows and it looks professional.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, that was wonderful information.
Excellent.
In closing, we just want to say thank you so much for coming out and helping us with those do's and don'ts. And we feel that all of this information is going to help individuals get on the right track and landing that awesome job that they've been waiting and praying for so long. So we thank you so much. And tune in next time at Partner Central Florida, the SET program, where we set our goals, we evaluate our plan, and we take action.